Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution.
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 You want a revolution?
You say you want a revolution?
Revolution. The revolution.
It's going on right now.
Welcome to The Revolution, the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we ask today's most successful entrepreneurs to share the tools and strategies they use to build relationships and connections to grow their revenue. Now, your host for The Revolution, John Corcoran.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the host of the Smart Business Revolution podcast. And if you've been listening for a while, you know that every week I'm talking to really smart, cunning, strategic CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs of all kinds of companies and organizations like YPO, EO, Activation Blizzard, Lending Tree, Open Table Act Software, and many more. I'm also the co-founder of Rise25, where we help connect B2B business owners to their ideal prospects. And first, before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to Alex Lovac of Crestec and Darkhoid, also of EO Entrepreneurs Organization in San Francisco, who introduced us to our wonderful guest, who is Andrea Heuston. She's the CEO and creative principal of Artitudes Design. It's an award-winning creative agency. She has over 20 years experience in the design industry, won several awards, including Puget Sound Business Journal's 40 Under 40, the annual Enterprising Women of the Year Awards for Enterprising Women magazine, Cambridge Who's Who, Key for Women Achieve Award, and many more. She has a degree in communications and design from the University of Washington. And in addition to being an entrepreneur, she's also a speaker, an author, and a volunteer with a number of local community nonprofits. She's also the host of the Lead Like a Woman show, which our team at Rise25, we're very privileged to help her to launch and to manage. And first, before we get into this interview, this episode is brought to you by Rise25 Media. And look, I don't need to tell you the world has changed. We all know that. The next question is, what do you do about it? And in this economy, it's more important than ever to be able to connect and build strong relationships with clients, referral partners, strategic partners, even and especially when you can't be face-to-face. So at Rise25, we have 20 years of experience in the B2B space, connecting and building profitable relationships with clients, referral partners, and strategic partners using a podcast. You can and should be doing this too. We've helped hundreds of B2B businesses to get more clients and referrals and land collaborations with dream clients. To learn more, go to rise25media.com or email us at support@rise25media.com. And Andrea, you've done an amazing job with your podcast. So let's just start right there. I want to hear about what it has meant for you, the Lead Like a Woman show, what it has done for your business. And I know you've just really followed through and been gung-ho and connected with some amazing people. But talk a little bit about what you've been covering on the show and what people can expect there.
Sure. Thanks for the great introduction, John. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. And I love Rise25. You guys have helped ease my way into the podcast world and launch it with a little bit of power. So I really appreciate that. So I'm the host of the Lead Like a Woman show, and I interview female leaders who are empowering others. Really, the goal is to help women rise. And what that means for me is key conversations with women who are either in leadership positions or who strives to be in leadership positions or who have done something different in the world that we can share with others for inspiration and aspiration. People that I've interviewed, there's so many good ones so far. This week I'm interviewing Andrea Herrera of Boxperience and Amazing Edibles out of Chicago. I recently interviewed Kristen Kale. She's an HR expert at the San Diego. Alex Lovac is on my list, who you just talked about. She's a friend of mine, and she's in the San Francisco Bay Area and Texas with her company. Just lots of powerful women who have been able to create value for other people and especially other women. And I love what we're doing. My passion in life is to help other women. Women have been maligned for many, many, many moons, let's say centuries. And I think it's important for everyone to be a feminist, first of all, everyone, male, female, non-binary, whatever, to be a feminist, because really when women are empowered, the whole world is empowered and we're in a better place.
Yeah. I want to ask you, since we're on this topic, before we hop into talking about some other topics. But on the topic of women, and particularly women in leadership and entrepreneurship, this is such an unusual time. We're recording this in July of 2020. We're on the heels of the Me Too movement, which was groundbreaking in so many different ways. And then you have the pandemic, which I've heard some people say that, it's going to be a big step backward for a lot of women for the reasons that, a lot of housework falls on them.
Yep.
And so, it's just a lot of women maybe leaving the workforce or having to shut down their business. What are your thoughts at this moment in time on how these two singular events in the last couple of years are going to affect women and women who want to be leaders and be entrepreneurs?
So I'm a glass half full or overflowing type of a person. So I believe this is an incredible opportunity in our history right now, as we're making history for other reasons. I mean, there's a global plague going on. I know it's pandemic, but I'm calling it a plague at the moment. And women have been thrust back into some roles that they've always had or always been targeted as, just because of gender rules and gender biases that have run deep, all within our DNA, as a matter of fact, because you live what you learn and you learn what you live. And so women are the caretakers of the family, women are the cooks and the cleaners, and now they're thrust into the role of homeschooling as well, and entertainment directors. And there's so many things that women do. I call it the mom load as well, because in our heads, even if we have a partner, an amazing individual who can help us out with everything and really lift their share of the load on an ongoing basis, even if it feels 50-50, it isn't. Because women in their brains are going, I forgot to call the dentist for my son today. Oh, my daughter has a test next week. I gotta think about that. Oh crap, I forgot to put my son's lacrosse gear into the dryer. What's he gonna do? These things run in our heads. And whether we have a partner who helps us out or not, they're still there. So it's called the mom load. And I think we're at an inflection point in a lot of ways, because there's been studies out, and one that I read recently that was fascinating, that said even the men think they're doing more than they actually are. So there's been some interviews and some studies done about this load and this workload, and men are like, no, I carry 50% of the burden. I'm getting the kids out of bed in the morning. I'm helping set them up on Zoom. But it's not everything. And there's no way we can get out of our heads everything that needs help. So what we really are looking at as an opportunity is for men to take it away from us, and to realize that they can have that same level of load. So I think we're at a point of opportunity right now where we can either fall back into those traditional gender roles, which some women love, and I think that's great, and some men love that too. But we're also at this point where we have the opportunity to move forward in a super positive way and have people bear an equal share of a burden. Now, it's all about communication and talking about it and learning about what's going on with that burden and how we can divvy it up in such a way that it feels less burdensome.
Now, you have a unique perspective, having run your business for many years. Let's jump backwards in time about 4 months now to March, when this global plague hit all of us.
Yeah.
Take us back to what that was like, in those early days when, the news was coming at us really fast. Yeah. Did you see this having a major impact on your business right away, or did you anticipate that it would? And when did you feel like, oh man, this is going to require me to make some big changes and shifts?
So I live in the Seattle area, and I've run my business here for 25 years, and our clients are in the Fortune 100 sector usually. We have a number of clients, but a bulk of what we do is with C-suite executives in the Fortune 100. And that said, our event work. So we do a lot of event work where we will help coach speakers and write their speeches and create all the visuals on the screen behind them, be it a PowerPoint presentation, a personal branding, a demo, or motion graphics. And these are presentations for 20 to 50,000 people in the audience. And when this started happening, my first thought was, oh, it'll be over by June, July, our busiest months of the year, we'll be fine. Because our Microsoft show season runs June, July. We have Cisco in August. We have Tableau later on in September. So things run for quite a while for us. But by May, every single one of those companies had shifted to a virtual event program instead of doing things in front of a live audience. And for safety's sake, I think that's wonderful, but I saw 35% come off my top line immediately. So we had open POs that just started closing because they didn't need our services in the same way. And that's hard. That's hard when you're supporting a small business. We have been on an upswing for the last 3 years because we had been in the dumps. I had an employee die 3.5 years ago who ran 85% of the clients. And in that time, he was also a friend and a neighbor. And he'd been my employee for 9 years, and I fell into depression and didn't do anything about it. So we lost $600,000 in a year. So we were climbing out of that hole and had really good revenue numbers for this year and projections for this number when COVID hit. And I had to reset, but not only reset, but also come up with new ways of looking at things to see where we could bring revenue in. But yeah, our live event business is just slim to none right now. We've pivoted to do a lot of different things now. So it's good and the revenue's coming in. But
let's talk about that pivot process.
Sure.
So what did you do? You recently interviewed Andrea Herrera out of Chicago, who I also interviewed recently from Box Experience.
Yep.
She had an amazing story. Those of you who are listening, go check out that episode as well, because she had a $3 million a year catering business that knocked down to 5% or so of what it was expected to be. And so she pivoted to this much different business. What did you, it seems like maybe kind of a natural going from live events to virtual events, but did you evaluate a lot of different ideas? Did you talk to different people? How did you figure out how you're going to change your services?
Yeah, we've been talking to everybody and their brother and sister, seriously. So being that we've been in the industry we've been in for many, many years, I would say 15 years ago, we set ourselves on a path to be the live event design specialists, which really means all sorts of different pieces, but we never worked in virtual events. This was a brand new arena for us. We had never, ever done a virtual event. And a virtual event, from what we've learned from experience, cannot look anything like a live event. There are no 1 hour keynote speeches, because really you have somebody doing a 1 hour keynote on a Zoom meeting or some of the other platforms that are out there that we use, and everybody's tuned out. They are looking at their phones, they turn their camera off, they're talking to their kids, they're checking email, they're even playing solitaire on their computer or something because they can't stay engaged.
Yeah.
So what we learned is we need snackable content. We need to really get the content down. People say 25 to 30 minutes max for a talking head. I say 12 and a half minutes. And you have to mix it up. You have to look at things like attention span, but you have to look at things like energy too. So when you're a speaker in a room, you can read the energy of the room. I mean, even if it's 50,000 people in a room, you can hear this chatter, you can watch people look at their phones. You can't do that in a virtual meeting. So instead, you have to create this false sense of energy in some ways. And by doing that, it creates real energy. So you do polls, you do moderated chat, you do Q&A, and you plug it in every 10 to 12 and a half minutes. So it keeps the energy up. So there's been some interesting learnings for us. I had a client come to me in April and say, we want to do a live event for 1,000 people on June 24th. And I said, it's not going to happen. And that's not usually how I run my business. I don't usually say that to a client. But they said, no, our CEO says we must do this on June 24th and it will be live. And I said, tell you what, let's create a proposal for a live event and let's create a proposal that's not a live event. And I have some ideas around that. So to do a live event in June in the Seattle area, it looked like even if we were at phase 3, that would mean 50 people or less in one space. If you have 30 people as crew, you get 20 people in the audience. So think of that. If we have 1,000 people that we need to have in the audience and you get 20 at a time, we have a lot of events going on, a ton of events going on. So instead of creating 50 different events to reach 1,000 people, the client agreed to do this snackable content approach. And instead, we're creating 700 minutes a video that's rolling out in a seasonal way. So there's season 1 with episodes 1 through 3, season 2 with episodes 1 through 7, and then season 3 with a number of episodes as well. And each one is a 3 to 7 minute video that people can watch on their own time and get the information in that they need to get in. So it's a very, very different approach to an event, even because it's not an event. Instead, it becomes content that's evergreen and content that they can use in many different ways. So it's fun to reimagine some of the stuff we're doing. We have another live event.
Innovative. It's innovative. It's interesting.
It is.
It's interesting just to, even over 4 months, to see some of the evolution and changes. It was kind of like, in the first few months, it was like, oh, we'll do virtual events. We'll do exactly the same, except over Zoom, and very quickly people learned that didn't work very well. One interesting one I want to ask you about is some organizations, EO included, which you're involved in San Francisco, in Seattle, has combined the physical and the virtual. So EO San Francisco had a gala event where they shipped food and alcohol and everything, and had a gala where they had instruction, and you're in your kitchen, like making the food with everyone else at the same time. Or I'm doing an event for EO actually this Wednesday, where they mailed us a box that had a cocktail making kit, and we're gonna have a mixologist who comes in and midway through there. So talk a little bit about that learning. Have you been involved in any events that have done that sort of thing?
Oh, definitely. We're seeing a lot of that through EO. I'm also part of WPO, the Women Presidents Organization, and we have our virtual summit this week. It's always been in person. They've always done the conference in person. This week, it's not, and they've already sent us stuff. I can't wait to open it, but you're not supposed to open everything until the whole program starts. Now, one of our clients, we're working with them for a virtual event in August, and it usually is a 2-day event. We did it in Chicago last year at the Navy Pier, which was an amazing venue for an event. It's high-end, it's experiential, because these are distributors of their product, and they really want them to buy in. So they show them all the new product, they talk about the new product, they give them cool experiences. So this time we're doing it virtually, and we're going to do it in a broadcast style, almost like a TV news studio, where we do snackable content and then something else, Q&A, and then more content. So they show videos, they do moderated Q&A, everything like that. And then we're sending them an experience. So I'm not exactly sure what that looks like yet, but there will be wine and wine pairings. There will be something that they can interact with, and it'll all happen within the construct of the virtual event. So not only are you an attendee at an event, but you're part of it. The best events engage all the senses. And it's harder to do in a virtual setting. But those who can figure out how to do it, and we're working hard to do that, will get the most engagement of the audience.
Yeah. Any other best practices that you've seen people engaging in? Like, for example, taking larger groups and breaking them up into smaller groups and having them discuss something. I think that's a good model. Anything else? Any other best practices you've seen?
So that's one of the best models, I think, that I've seen as well. The other thing that we've done in that kind of thing with breakouts, and I was a speaker for 200 women recently, doing a webinar for women on how to really get by in this virtual world in business, because it's entirely different than it was before. And I spoke for a few minutes, and then we broke everybody up. And they each separately had a question in every single breakout. So they were all different questions. And then we came back to discuss. And not only was I the one discussing it because I arranged the exercise, but we had a moderator as well so that it didn't get overwhelming. One of the other things that's fun to do is a poll. So you can poll people in the middle of a speech or some sort of interactivity, because then they can come in and go, oh yeah, I got to pay attention to this. So if you tell them, in 10 minutes, it's not a test, there's going to be a poll and we're going to want some of your feedback, they're more likely to pay attention.
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask you about, you mentioned earlier that you're a glass is half full or a glass is overflowing type of person. I tend to be the same way. I really try to look through life at the positive things. And there are different practices that I have in order to try and maintain that. It's not always easy, especially this year, But what do you do in order to keep that positivity, at times like when, your trusted employee dies or a global plague is, hitting all of us?
So to give you a snippet of background on me, I was in a coma 12 years ago. So I have 4 before and afters in my life. The first was infertility treatments and then adopting our children from a drug-addicted birth mother. My second was a coma for 19 days and a recovery that took almost a year. The third was my house burning down and having to escape the house with my children. And then, and then the fourth was my employee.
You're not even up to the pandemic yet.
Well, my fourth was my employee dying.
Okay, then there's 5 now.
Well, there could be 6. I mean, my business lived through 9/11 and the financial crisis of 2008. So there's been a lot. Yeah. So I could either wallow in self-pity or choose to be a victim, and I'm not. I'm one of those people who chooses not to be a victim. I'd rather take responsibility for my own actions. But one thing I do every day to set my tone is I have gratitude practice. And it's first thing in the morning, and sometimes it looks like right before I get out of bed, I name things in my head that I'm grateful for. Sometimes it's during my morning walk. Sometimes it's while I'm drinking my coffee and I'll write them down. But generally speaking, I spend 10 to 15 minutes in gratitude every single day. The other thing I do is I like to read quotes. I have a different quote every day, and I look at different ones. Today, my quote is, "I am deliberate and afraid of nothing." So it's a mindset, and it's something that I do consciously on a daily basis to keep that positive mindset. I also really, honestly, it sounds a little Miss Mary Sunshine or something, but I'm above ground. I am not dead. So every day is a good day.
I love that. Reflect back for me on, you mentioned 9/11, 2008 financial crisis. What was your business? What did your business go through then? And then I want to ask you about how the decisions you made now were influenced by then. But talk to me about what it was like for your business going through those experiences.
So 9/11, I was a brand new mom. I had a 2-month-old baby. He's now 19. And I was freelancing and contracting is what I was doing. So I was a sole proprietor. I didn't have employees yet at the time. But all my work dried up. I had a brand new baby. We were building a brand new house because the house we were in didn't have enough room for a family. And all of a sudden there's no work. And I was the breadwinner at the time. So it was incredibly difficult. And I had to then be of the mindset that I take anything that comes my way. And I did for a while. I've had to do that a few times where we have a niche of what we do. But like after the financial crisis, which really hit the Seattle area and us in 2009, which was good because I was in a coma in 2008. But with that happening, I had to lay people off. And then we had to change the tip of our spear. We had to change what we did in order to stay afloat. And that's when we decided that we weren't just going to do PowerPoint design anymore, that we were going to get into motion graphics, that we were going to get into other event graphics, which was able to expand our business footprint in a really big way. So I'm looking at this COVID plague right now as an opportunity to do something new and exciting with my business. And we have some ideas percolating right now that we're really excited about.
And did you make decisions quicker when this hit because of that? Yes, you did. Like what? Yes. Tell me some stories.
So I actually didn't have to lay anybody off. But my decisions around events were, okay, I have 7 trips planned and we have this many live events with everybody planning to go. Cancel them now. I need to get the money back on flights. I need to get the money back on hotels. Not just looking at, oh, wait, that's down the line a bit. It'll be okay. Nope, we're going to make decisions now. And then if we need to go back and rebook, the client's going to pay for it anyway. So there was some of that going on, but there was also, where can I get the most help? I'm not in a silo. I love to talk to people and get ideas. And so I blatantly ask for help. I was part of this thing called Catalant, and it's the Harvard MBAs helping businesses in COVID-19. And I had just finished Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program, which was amazing for my company. But during the pandemic, they pivoted for 3 weeks of content on how to get the PPP loan, how to go after funding, how to pivot your business, which was very, very valuable. But coming out of that, I got this opportunity for these MBA students. And all I had to do is prove I was a small business, upload a project, and students would grab my project and go with it. And so I had 2 MBA students for 8 weeks who created a new line of business for me, and now we're implementing it.
Wow, that's really cool. I just heard about from another someone we both know, Fran Biederman Gross, just told me about chooseapprentice.com, which is you hire apprentices. I think it's like $2,000 for 25 hours a week or something like that. They're mostly college students, but young and eager, young, scrappy, and hungry kind of thing.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the impact that your EO forum has had. Of course, we respect confidentiality, but talk a little bit about how that has helped you this time through in terms of, for those who don't know, the basic format of EO is you're in a small group forum with peers. 6 to 12 peers or so. And it's the opportunity to meet with other CEOs, business owners, and exchange ideas. So what role did that play for you during this time period?
So for this one, my EO forum family has really been supportive, and we've been supportive of each other. And I have learned that even if I don't have an issue that needs to be processed or some problem I need help with to solve, I can learn just as much by listening to other people. And that's really what it's been about for me this time. But also, I believe that my positivity has helped other people and it reflects on me. So if ever I'm feeling a little bit low, that's the place I can share it with and bring myself back up. I'm also a member of WPO, Women Presidents Organization, and that group has been incredible during this time. Both my EO forum and WPO, we've created something where we used to meet just once a month, and now we're meeting every single week. So I have a lunch hour with my forum every week where we can just bounce ideas off of each other and have a chat. Same thing, I have a happy hour with WPO, so we can do the same thing. And there's the Women of EO, where we're doing a weekly happy hour as well, with just the females in our chapter, which has been really valuable. It's been good processing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, this has been great, Andrea. I want to wrap things up with the question I always ask, which is, let's pretend we're at an awards banquet, much like the Oscars or the Emmys, and you're receiving an award for lifetime achievement for everything you've done up until this point. And what we all want to know is, who do you thank? Who are the mentors? Who are the coaches? Who are the friends? Who are the business partners? Who are the forum mates? Who you would acknowledge in your remarks?
Well, without brown nosing, I'm going to thank Rise 25 because you guys rock, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. So I got to be honest.
Awesome. Thank you.
I would thank my husband, Eric, who's been incredibly supportive. We've been married for 26 years next month. And he's been really, really supportive. I would thank Carrie Searing, who is my assistant and my operations manager at my office and has been with me. So she was my older son's summer nanny 18 years ago. Wow. And then she started with the company 14 years ago, and she's been with me ever since. So I would definitely thank her. Other people I'd thank is my best friend from Denmark who lives in England, Karina Outson, my EO forum mates, my EO board mates. I'm on the board for the third time in a year, or third time, not in a year, third year in a row. And then probably my other women of EO and WPO who I really, really like to bounce ideas off of, because they're not ideas that just bounce off and go into the ether. We discuss them and work on them and figure out the best way forward. I'm sure there's other people I've missed, but I'm not Sally Field, so I can't spend 20 minutes on this part. Exactly.
The orchestra will come up. Well, this has been great. Tell everyone where they can go learn more about you.
Go to leadlikeawoman.biz, B-I-Z, or artitudesdesign.com.
Great. All right. And you have free Zoom backdrops, I believe, on there, right? That's cool. That's such a good giveaway. We do. We have free Zoom backdrops. I actually did some for Rise 25 as well. But during the pivot, we decided to do that for our clients. And then for our Microsoft clients who don't use Zoom, we gave them free email signatures. So nice.
We do that kind of thing. That's a lot of fun. But if you need a free Zoom background, go to artitudesdesign.com and click on virtual events.
Smart idea. All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John.
Thank you for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast with John Corcoran. Find out more at smartbusinessrevolution.com. And while you're there, sign up for our email list and join the revolution.
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 And be listening for the next episode of the Smart Business Revolution podcast.